Okay, so welcome everyone. This is part B of the Digital Storytelling Conference. We are representing the Eastern Standard Time Zone, which is Eastern Canada down through the Eastern United States, past the Yucatan Peninsula and Mexico, and then down further down Caribbean and Atlantic Islands, all the way south to Western Brazil. So I'd like to introduce the East Coast team here. From Montgomery College, we have Sarah Ducey.
Hello, welcome everyone. So happy to have you here.
Jamie Gillen.
Hi everyone, very excited about today.
Matthew Decker.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining.
And then from UMBC, which is University of Maryland, Baltimore County, we also have Bill Shoebridge.
Hi folks, glad to see you.
Bev Bickle.
Hi everyone, looking forward to our conversations.
And Charlotte Keniston. Is Charlotte here yet? She might not be here yet. Okay. We also have Stephen Bradley, who will be presenting in just a little bit, also from UMBC. And then I'm Philippa Rappaport from the Smithsonian Institution, specifically the Center for Learning and Digital Access. And we are so excited to be part of this amazing experience. So what we thought to do to open our session today is to ask Mike Wilson, whom I think all of you know, from Loughborough University. And Mike will give us a little recap of what happened in part A, and then also talk about the digital Decameron that he produced last year in lieu of the in-person conference. And then after Mike, we'll hear from Steve Bradley, so we'll sort of move a little more local then, and Steve will talk about something that's almost ending right now on the East Coast, which is the appearance of what's called Brood X cicadas. These are periodical cicadas, and he'll talk about his interactions with them. And then we'll close out this first session with Sarah Ducey from Montgomery College, who will tell an even more local story about Maryland lump crab cakes. So let's start with Mike.
Great, thank you, Philippa, and welcome everybody. This is session B, and I was asked to provide the bridge between session A, and I know some colleagues have jumped ship from session A to session B because I don't think I can give a full overview of what happened because it's actually still going on. They are running a little bit late, but I think that is testament to the quality of the presentations and the conversations. I think they're running they've got about another 20-30 minutes to go, and then I'm sure some other colleagues will join us. But just to give you a very quick overview of what we've had, and it's been an incredibly rich and diverse set of conversations and presentations, and we started with a wonderful performance by our friend Daniel Onyango from the Hope Raisers project in Korogocho, which is one of the largest slums in Nairobi, with his Nyatiti stories. And Daniel plays the traditional Kenyan instruments, and he sang for us and got us off to a great start. We then followed that with a performance by Eleni Milona, really very interesting sort of interactive performance that actually all the time we had our videos off, but our microphones left on. So there was this kind of really interesting background soundtrack that connected us all of people sort of creaking in their chairs or taking a slurp of their tea or being interrupted by the dog or whatever it might be. So it was a really great experimental piece. And then Burcu showed us how to make hummus. And we had a little bit of a discussion there because I put garlic in my hummus, which Burcu doesn't. So we had a little offline conversation about what actually should be the ingredients in that. But that was a really great, friendly, community building start to our session. And we then had an amazing series of papers, 10 papers in all. I can't go into great detail because I'll take ages to go into that, but we had, I'll just give you a very quick rundown. Anna Oliveira Garner talked to us about a social media app that she developed as part of her PhD work at in Hong Kong, which was a social media app that encouraged the telling of the sort of the bigger, more reflective stories, rather than the apps like Facebook or Instagram, which tend to encourage more instant, small stories. So she was making a plea for online social media space for the telling of those bigger, more reflective stories. We then had Filippo Trevisan talking about 2 projects, one in Australia, one in the States, that were disability advocacy projects that were using crowdsourcing as ways of gathering large amounts of stories as kind of story banking projects. Then we had Giselle Aviles talking about the Hispanic reading room and using story maps to present some of the materials there. And we had some really interesting examples of combining poets reading their stories alongside archive photographs of the areas that they were talking about, for example. So some really interesting work there. Megan Howard, who I think has joined us here, I think I saw entered the room. Megan told us about the community building workshop, digital storytelling work she was doing with her classes in the classroom as a ways of building community at a time when we really needed those social connections during lockdown. And then Iragena Rodriguez, as a remarkable Rwandan documentary maker, gave us some reflections, some personal reflections on some of the work he's been doing over the past 6 years, making films around girls' education and tackling homophobia in Rwanda. So really interesting reflections there. Then we moved on to our second session, and Nancy Luke gave us some examples of, again, digital storytelling in the classroom, using students' personal stories to develop advocacy and awareness. We had Sonia Chiades and Stephanie Carmona from California giving a very interesting presentation around using digital storytelling in intergeneration and also multilingual environments to great effect. Moafi then gave us some examples by using TED Talk videos around Muslim women using storytelling to challenge the traditional dominant narratives around Muslim women. So digital storytelling there being used as a tool of empowerment for Muslim women. Just as I was leaving, Elisa Bonaccini was talking about using digital storytelling in Sicily as within a tourist context and as a way of democratizing sort of cultural tourism. And finally, as I think I'm just having a look at my my iPad where I've still got session A going live. William Finnegan at the moment from University of Oxford, the geography department there, is talking about the use of digital storytelling to explore climate futures with youth. And before they join us, there's going to be a discussion with Daniela Gachago from South Africa is going to be talking about, with her colleagues, talking about ethical guidelines for digital storytelling in higher education. So that's a whistle-stop tour of everything we talked about, which was an amazingly rich and varied set of discussions. I just catch my breath for a minute. I did that almost without breathing. And I was also asked to talk a little bit about the digital Decameron, which was a response that we had last year. As you'll remember, last year, before we knew that Zoom was such an effective tool for connecting in such large numbers in a conference, we were planning to invite everybody to Loughborough and for the conference, which we're still hoping to do next year. But we were planning to do it last year. We had to postpone that for obvious reasons, and we were going to do it this year and had to postpone it again. But hey, here we are for a 24-hour marathon, which is almost as good. In the response to having to cancel last year's conference at very, very short notice, and thank you for everyone for their forbearance with us on that, I was reminded of, I'll read on the bookshelf behind me, of Giovanni Boccaccio's the Decameron, which sits on the bookshelf behind me and occasionally gets taken off to read a story, because it's a collection of 100 stories, 10 stories told over 10 days by 10 different storytellers. And the frame story is of 10 storytellers. It's 7 women and 3 men, and it's set in 1348 during the middle of the Black Death, and that was the plague that killed up to 30% of the European population. I mean, huge. You're talking 20 million or so deaths in that particular pandemic. And these 10 people, young people from Florence, go into the country and basically enter self-quarantine, and they entertain themselves by telling stories. And it seemed to me that that was a pretty neat way of responding to a pandemic lockdown. And maybe we should try and imagine what that would be like if we were to do that digitally with our digital storytelling expertise. So we kind of developed the idea of a mini festival. It actually went on over 10 weeks rather than 10 days, but we had 10 lots of 10 stories. And really, at that point, beyond having the idea, my contribution was largely minimal, and it was actually Bill Shoebridge who really took hold of that baton and was responsible for actually making it all work. So I don't know whether Bill wanted to add anything to that, but it was a really exciting sort of initiative, and it sort of gave me a little bit of energy at a time when I was feeling a little bit despondent about what we'd lost, and suddenly we'd gained something. Bill, you say something.
Just a little bit. One I want to clarify. There apparently is 2 digital Decameron projects out there now. We are digitaldecameron.org. And then there is a .com also. So I don't know anything about the .com, but yeah, so just go to the .org project. It was just, so much fun dealing this with you, Mike. I really, it was definitely at a time where I needed that, and it actually gave us an excuse to sort of reach out, into our community. And you bring in, we had different curators every week. Nicholas in Greece did one week. The folks at Montgomery College did a week. We had wonderful, stories coming out of nowhere that there's a group from, I believe, Sweden. A class project that submitted stories. So they're still there, they're still live, and they're worth checking out. It was also a great classroom project for my students, at a time when I needed to find something else for them to do. I could, give them a chance to, be part of this project. But it was a great idea.
Yeah, and it was great at a time when we were all feeling a little bit down and despondent, to give ourselves something creative to do. And I'd certainly, for me, it's kind of really lifted the spirits at that really tricky point quite early on in the first lockdown, when we really didn't know how long this thing was going to last, and vaccinations were just a small blip somewhere on the horizon. But so it was great. So thanks for that. And yes, there's another digital Decameron project that's so good they named it twice. There you go. I don't think there was anything else really to say, except to encourage people to go and check out digitaldecameron.org. when you have a moment, dip in and out of it. Some great stories on there.
Thank you so much, Mike and Bill. I had forgotten to mention before, so please also check out the Padlet. People are making comments now in the comments section and also on that Padlet.